All right, well, that brings us through to the exciting part in the show where I get to sit back and relax, actually sit back and probably take a lot of notes, because we have Janeen Vosper. And Janeen's here to talk to us about, or on the topic of crack the code, build a magnetic personal brand. So for those that don't know Janeen, I know there are a few people here that do know Janeen. She is an author, she's a conference speaker, she's a personal branding and authority coach, she's a sales trainer, she's a professional speaker trainer as well. That's why I'm really subconscious about all of my ums and ahs that come in here as well, because she is a professional speaker trainer. She has spent 30 years, sort of teaching how to get noticed as an industry expert. She has been a general manager of sales in a very successful multi-million dollar national supply business. And she's coached in there. She coached her high-performing sales team. They're all a commission-based sales team to an unbeaten sales record. Some of those people that were there were creating incomes for themselves that were very, very healthy incomes. So they are very happy with Janeen and would rave about her. So she established Speech Perfect, which is her business, in 2007. She is the author of 2 books, Good Girls Do Sell, A Modern Business Women's Guide to Authentic Selling, and the other book is Being Unstoppable. Remember, when life gets challenging, you've got this. So Janeen's motto is she believes that success is all about, you having to step up and stand out. So let's welcome Janeen Vosper to the stage as she talks to us tonight about how to build a magnetic personal brand.
Thank you very much, Nick. It's great to see everyone on here. There's so many familiar faces. It's wonderful. I'm watching Ray's face, though, and every time he moves back, I think it's a kiwi. It pops up, and then he moves forward, and it's his face, and he moves back, and there's a kiwi. So it's been entertaining me, Ray. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to share my screen. I've been watching Paul too with his glass of red wine. That's not a bad way to go while we're sitting here. And let's get started. So I've got everyone down the side and I won't be able to see the chat. I will open it though, just so that if anyone's got anything that they want to add, they can do that and hopefully I can respond to it. I want it to be a little bit interactive. So if you have got any questions along the way, I'm happy to address them if they're relevant where we are. If not, please save them up to the end, because there's probably things that you've been thinking and others might want to go, oh, I want to ask that question, but they don't get around to it. There will be parts where I'll be asking you to let me know your thoughts on a particular part. Please do that as well. I've done what I tell all of the people that when I'm running presentation workshops not to do, and that's give a ton of information and too much information. That you're going to take notes or take photos of the screen, I'm happy for you to do either. But let's have a look at what it means to build a personal brand. And that would probably be the first question I've got is, what does it mean? What's a personal brand? And so this is where the interaction part comes in. If you can pop something in the chat, what you think it means when you're talking about your brand and how it's seen or what a personal brand is. And I know sometimes the chat things take a little bit extra time to get through. We've got a couple of messages coming up. Oh, hi, Narelle. Any comments in there about what a personal brand is? Because it's one thing to say, hey, let's build this personal brand, but what is it? Your values? Thanks, Nick. I'm glad to see someone's got started. I'll wait for one more person to pop in something about what they think their personal brand is. I know there's some really clever people on here. The brand is a shop window. Thanks, Narelle. What you stand for. Thanks, Deborah. What people think about you when they see your name. Perfect, Cameron. What people will say about you behind your back. Thanks, Nick. Your professional image and values. Yes, it is all of those things. It is what other people think of you. So there's a whole lot of things that you can do, but the important part is is determining what other people think of you. But there's a whole lot of components that I'm going to go through in your vision. Thanks, Ray. Let's get started on that. There's a whole lot of reasons that I find when I'm working with clients as what might be holding them back from building their personal brand. And if you can relate to any of these, pop the number in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. The fear of judgment, if you're putting yourself out there in front all the time, will you be judged and what will people say about you? The fear of criticism. Again, Australia, we're great at that tall poppy syndrome where we like to pull people down where we can. Not culturally acceptable. I work with a lot of people from different Asian countries, and those are the reasons they hold themselves back a little bit, is it's not culturally acceptable to put themselves out there. That lack of confidence, just that lack of confidence and belief in yourself. Privacy concerns. There's some industries I work in where they definitely can't do that when I'm working with some of the lawyers and medical teams. Perceived lack of relevance, that, well, the things I'm doing aren't really that relevant. And I find, particularly when I'm working with professionals, they've come to me and go, well, there's nothing that I've got to say that would be relevant or interesting to other people. And I think this is one of the big things that we don't do it is because of time constraints. So any of those resonate with you, pop that number in the chat as to what might be holding you back from actually being front and center. What I've noticed over the last few years is that it used to be very much about your company brand. And particularly on a lot of platforms, they really focus on the company, where it's not that anymore. It's really about you being in front of your brand. What I've noticed in the last few years is people have really gone back to buying from people, and they want that reality. There's so much AI out there. They really want to be recognized when they're dealing with a real person. And that's why you have to be seen in front of your brand. So all of these things that might be holding you back. Thank you, Lana and Diana, for sharing those fears. It is so important for you to be out in front of your brand. Because when you are, you build that greater level of trust and loyalty from people, from prospects and from customers, definitely increased visibility and recognition. It differentiates you from your competitors. If you've got other people doing the same thing and they're hiding behind the company, but you're the person that's out in front of your brand, then you're definitely going to be seen. You've got greater control over your messaging as well if you're delivering the messages. There's opportunity for direct engagement. If you are out there, whether it's on social media, we've created videos or podcasts, whatever you've done, there's opportunity for people to provide feedback and increase referrals and networking opportunities. This is something that I particularly have found in the business, in my business, is those referrals. And I'm getting referrals that sometimes are years old. I mean, I got referred to a client to assist with them helping put their story together because they had a $300 million deal which they were pitching to this American company. And they were the type that had lots of facts and figures, but they didn't know how to put the story. But the referral came from a connection from 2 years ago. And it was somebody that I was on a team with. It was part of a networking team. You don't know where things come from. And if you're standing out in front of your brand, then people are going to see you. And that credibility, and you become an expert. You are the expert of your brand. And particularly if businesses, I've worked with a lot of people who've sold their business. It's not something I help them with. There's lots of accountants out there that can help them do that. But then they just step into that consultant role themselves. And if they haven't built up their own brand, then they're going to miss that opportunity. So this is why it is so definitely important to get out in front of your brand. Just a few different things I've done. There's a couple of pictures of my books. I had opportunities to, speak to a lot of different groups. There's somebody there you may recognize in that particular group. I was asked by Koshi's Business Builders to supply a couple of blogs. I've written some interesting content in newspapers, and then worked with a whole lot of big guys. And it is part of getting that brand out there, and how can that help you is really what we want to be talking about today. So there's 5 different points. I've got a lot to cover, and you're taking notes. That is excellent. Or as I said, you can take photos of the screen. So we're going to look at these 5 different points, which is clarity, connection, community, consistency, and competitive edge. And look at how they can actually build that strong foundation and enhance your customer connectivity and really put you out there as the brand and the authority that people want to deal with. So the first part is that clarity, and we're going to look at defining your goals, know your customer, and develop your USP, your unique selling proposition. I always start with defining your goals. If you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it, then you're going to spend a lot of time doing something that isn't relevant to building the brand and getting your message out there if that's your focus. So what is the priority for you? And there's lots of benefits for setting goals. And I'm imagining that everyone on here sets goals at, just maybe the start of the year. You go, these are my goals for the year. And you'll then write them down, because you know that you have a lot more success if you write your goals down. But when it comes to your strategies for your marketing, your strategies for building your brand, where you're going to put your time and effort, a lot of people just don't do that. They're sort of, the next bright shiny object comes along and somebody doing something, I'll go, oh, that sounds great. Maybe I should have a podcast, without any thought behind the amount of time that goes into doing a podcast, getting the right sort of content and the cost of doing it. I've had a podcast now for 8 years. So I was fortunate I started a podcast when they were starting, but they are time consuming. And what are the benefits and why would you do it? And is it just to get your brand name out? Well, then if you do, then are you going to focus on that and not focus on something else? Because time's a constraint, as we learned. So there's definite benefits of setting goals. You get really clear on your purpose. I can't stress this strongly enough, that whatever you're doing, when you're building your brand, whatever you're marketing, whatever your platform you're on, however you're doing it, there has to be a strategy behind it. And I know Steve's on here. He will probably absolutely agree with that. There has to be a strategy behind it, and you have to know what you want to achieve from it. If you take nothing away, take this away, that it's not the bright, shiny object. It's not just something somebody else is doing. I see people go into writing chapters of books often. And when I ask them why they did it, it feels good and be able to get your information out there. If that's why you've done it, great. As long as you don't expect that you're going to make $1 million from it, or even thousands of dollars from it. It's a costly exercise, and it's more of an ego exercise, which is fine if you realize that's what it is. As Nick said, I've written a couple of books, and they make really great fancy business cards. That's what they are. It gives me that authority. Then you can say, yes, I've written a couple of books. So being mindful of why you are doing anything, because when you do, you know what you're doing and you set those goals, then there's a lot, definitely works towards that success. Who sets the goals for and has a strategy for their marketing or their branding? I'd love to know who does that now, or who doesn't do it. Yes or no in the chat would be great, because you're not alone. If you're not doing it, you're not alone. There's so many people that don't have time. That's a great one, Cameron. And it is. You know what saves you time is by doing it. It's quite amazing how, because you don't get distracted with other things, because you set those goals down and you know exactly what you're working towards. And then 90-day goals or action plans means that you get things done. Fairly straightforward now. Yeah, cool. Thank you. When we're talking about the clients, we're talking about what it is that what's their prize. what are they buying from you, and why would they bother buying it? What's the prize they're getting? A lot of people, when we're talking about what we do, we talk about what we do rather than not why someone might buy from them. We talk about the features of some things that we do rather than the benefits. And we really want to be able to get that story very, very clear about why someone might want to buy from you. Because if you don't know why they buy from you, then you can't articulate it. And that means that how do you promote your brand then? Because what you'll be doing is just promoting what you do. And people aren't interested in what you do. They're interested in what you can do for them. But thinking about that, it's really important to be aware of what it is that you can do for them. And the next part we want to be talking about when we're talking about getting clear on things is, what is your USP, your unique selling proposition? What is it, and why do people buy from you? What sets you apart? Don't you just love that picture? There's a lot of, I've worked with a lot of accountants, and when we start setting things up, particularly on LinkedIn, is, they'll say, I'm an accountant. Or if you look at websites, it'll say, I can add up, I'm accurate, as it would be for an accountant, rather than figuring out what makes them absolutely unique and different from everybody else. So what is setting you apart from everyone else that's in your industry? Do you know exactly what that is? So your unique selling proposition. So what your customers want, what your business does well, and where that meets in the middle is your USP. If we're looking at it, so how do you determine your USP? Again, we've got to get really clear on these points. If you want to define your brand identity, understanding your target audience, who are you having that conversation with? What makes you different about your product and service? I know I worked with a client who was in a multi-level marketing business, and she's, everything was a healthy food one. I can't think of the name of it now. But what she was doing was, I've got nothing that makes me unique. And after a little bit of digging, and it's one of the things I love to do is dig down and find out people's stories, is we found out that she had 7,000 followers on TripAdvisor. Well, first of all, I didn't know you could have followers on TripAdvisor, but she does lots of traveling and hiking. So we built her USP. I mean, that makes it really unique. We built all her messaging and her stories around that. And it just increased the people coming to her, and the way she talked about the business and explained the business. You really need to get clear and be able to craft a very, very clear, unique selling proposition statement about what sets you apart from everybody else. And one of the best ways to do this, it says there, read testimonials and reviews. So this is a review that I received. And this is what I want you to do, is to go and look at your reviews, assuming that all of you have your Google business set up, or that you have a way to capture reviews, whether from Google or from LinkedIn or from Facebook, wherever it is. Look at the reviews and look at what those clients are saying about you. And the words they use can be the words that you can use that will make you stand out in what you do. So this one here, particularly Janeen's ability to communicate complex ideas in an accessible way, is commendable. So if he's written this, and that can be my marketing material. I guarantee you'll have people that have written things about you that you haven't thought of going and using their words to find out what your USP is. Has anyone done this in the past? I'd love to know that, whether you have done that, gone and looked at your reviews and then figured out, okay, this is where I stand out. Sorry, I dropped something then. This is where I stand out, and this is what makes me unique. It is the simplest and best way to do that. Pop a yes in there if anyone is doing that at all. the second point here, we're going to talk about connection. How do you connect? And the first part is by listening actively, building trust, and connecting through stories. Just mentioned stories a couple of times. Actually, I'll give a prize to anyone that has already been counting the amount of stories I have said and can tell me how many stories I've got to at the end, anecdotes. A lot of people can hear, but very few people can listen. And ChatGPT helps me speed up the process through my reviews. That's great, Nick. Actually, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. That would work well. And be open and neutral, withhold judgment. We need to learn to listen. When I first started my podcast, I wasn't great at listening, and I trained myself to listen by listening to books. As I drive or walk or whatever I do now, I'm always listening to a book. And I know I used to deal with a lot of the mining companies up in Queensland. I'd be on the road, for days, and I'd be listening to, there were CDs then I'd get from the library, and I'd be listening to the books, and all of a sudden I've got to a mine site and I've missed an hour of the book because I wasn't concentrating. I bet you people can relate to doing exactly that you haven't been paying attention. So training yourself to listen well, because when you hear things that people say about what their needs are and how you might be able to help them, then you'll stop already solving their problem and you'll listen to what they need you to say to them, so they know that you hear and understand them. And forget about your biases. This is one of the things that I find a lot of people, when they don't listen, they're already formulating ideas where they're going, well, that's not going to work anyway. These points on here on listening are probably the most important points in any conversation you're going to have with anybody, but to determine then what they need from you, so then that you can build that into your brand. Some of the ways that you can build trust, of course, is by your reviews, your Google reviews. And is there anyone not doing Google reviews or a Google business, or not asking for reviews? Is anyone not, or who is asking for reviews? That's probably a better way to determine that. I have in the bottom of my email signature that says your 5-star review is greatly appreciated, and it's got the link that you can go directly to it and make things easy for people. The podcast, that's another way that I built trust. People have got to know me. I'm a traveler, and I was out in a small town. I'm going to say Thargomindah, but I'm not sure if that's where I was then. Yeah, it was Thargomindah. And this woman was helping me with a phone thing, and it popped up my Gmail address, wearewomen@gmail.com. And she said, I listened to that podcast. And this town's got 300 people in it. And it was just amazed me, and I said, I'm Janeen, that's my podcast. And after, a few hugs and tears and things like that, she said that the things that she'd been listening to on the podcast had given her enough strength to move out of a situation that was really harmful for her, move to the small town, get a great job, make new friends, and changed her life. So we had, again, the more tears and hugs. But you don't know when you're putting things out there, you don't know the ripples that it causes and how you affect people, but you've got to put the stuff out there. That's the point, because that's what builds that trust. Getting interviewed on other people's podcasts is a really great way to demonstrate your authority. So there's so many different podcasts around, finding ones and approaching people. And often, I know with mine, I interview women only, because it's called We Are Women. But there's lots of podcasts out there right around the world, and I've had about 7 interviews already this year on other people's podcasts. And it just, again, demonstrates your authority, builds your brand. And getting testimonials, video testimonials, and putting it on your YouTube channel, putting it on your website, whatever works with you, and looking through that analytics one there, that's LinkedIn. So, getting those results and seeing that you are getting connections. We want to build the trust of the audience. It's how you build your brand. And I put this in because this is something that I'm really proud to have achieved. Last year was a business to business award winner for small business at the Logan Chamber of Commerce. Again, that certainly builds trust. And then when you've got this, the recognition for different awards, there's a whole lot of awards going on at the moment, a lot of award systems. And even if you're a finalist, it certainly is opportunity for you to let people know, because that builds trust in that you are an expert in this, or you are someone trustworthy to deal with. The telling stories, I've mentioned this a couple of times, is probably my favorite thing to do out of all of the different teachings that I do, is working with someone to pull apart what they do and tell a story. Just had a retreat at Airlie Beach last weekend, and I worked with a whole lot of ladies there to help pull their story. It's not a CV. It's not, I've done this. It's what have you done and that has created a learning that demonstrates your expertise. And that's what, when you're talking about branding, that's what it's all about. It's not that, I have had this business since 2007. It's more that when I started this business in 2007, I wasn't sure, how it would go. And now, 17 years later, I realize, with the support of clients, you can see where I'm going with this. Be able to tell the stories well. And you've got to know your audience. That's such an important factor when you're telling stories. Who are you speaking to? Who are your customers? What message do you want to get out there? Don't do the shotgun effect. Get really targeted on who you're having that conversation with. Align your stories with your brand. Again, what's relevant to your brand? And that's the stories that you're going to be telling. And there's always got to be some sort of relevance to a story. And there's a whole lot of elements into storytelling. And when I work with people, I work through different models of storytelling to help them put the stories together. And then I edit them and we create something pretty powerful together. Use real success stories when you're telling stories. Even if it's not your story, use someone else's story. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were telling me about how successful they were doing this. There's stories everywhere. You can find an anecdote. I can make something up on the spot for anyone at any time. It's a little party trick I like. Make the stories very visual as well. Build that visual into it. So because 50% of the population are highly visual, create an emotional connection. So if you're not usually using emotional words in your speaking, then when you're storytelling, find how you can add that emotion, because people want to connect with that. And really keep it simple and focused. We don't want big language. We really want to make sure that our audience hears us, recognizes and says, this is the person I want to deal with because I like who they are. And it's promoting your brand as best as it can. So number 3 is community. How do we get seen? And how do we give value? But importantly, how do we build a tribe of loyal supporters? So a lot of things I've already been talking about building trust and connecting through stories is very much about that, building that loyal tribe, but it all builds on top of each other, and it's having the foundations in place to start with. So depending on where your audience is, I had someone a while ago, and they said, oh my goodness me, I've got on TikTok and I've got all these people following me. Now that person's clients was 50-year-old women. Now that's not her audience, but it felt really good because she had all these followers on TikTok, but it certainly wasn't doing anything for her brand and her business. But if your clients are there, then is it going to do something for your brand and your business? Where do you want your clients to see you? And this is where, when you start working with people, because they'll be told you should be doing this, or you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, it gets really confusing. It means that people have to pick up a lot of expertise in different platforms. How are they going to do that when they're first starting out, and usually are trying to do everything themselves? They haven't got any assistance. it's overwhelming and people don't do it. This is what I see a lot, is people end up going, oh, I can't do it. Figuring out where your clients are and what platform they're going to find you on. So with all the videos I do, I'm definitely up on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. My three primary, and everything transfers across to Insta anyway. And Twitter, it's just a comment thing. I Meetup, also run 3 different groups on Meetup. But I've been doing it for a while now, so it's not something I just started yesterday and tried to do everything at once. It's such an important thing to remember. Pace it. So this is my week, and I think Nick can do. Thanks, Nicolette. Nick can, anyone that follows me can attest to this. I am involved in a lot of different groups, and we're talking about networking and being seen. Oh, definitely out there. So as I mentioned, there's three different meetup groups, up and coming speakers, We Are Women Business, and Positive Women's Network. I'm part of the Be Connected network. I run a women's mastermind, Parkridge Connect. I'm on the board of Logan Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member of BX for 4 years. I'm on the committee for Logan City Women in Business, and Bayside Women in Business, and other places as well. That is an awful lot. And what I really get people to hesitate when they're looking at, or be thoughtful when they're looking at what networking is going to work for them. My clients are at these networking events. It makes sense that I build time in as part of my marketing and the cost to go to the events to do exactly that. There's different reasons you might network. It might be just to practice doing a pitch, or practice getting out in the community and get out from behind your desk. I always encourage people to do that if they're stuck behind their desk all the time. But definitely pace it. Again, I've been part of these groups for quite a long time, and it's a different space, and I know what works and what doesn't work for me. But you need to be seen, and definitely, getting into a place that works for you. Well, I'd love to know what networking groups people are part of. If you can pop in the message bank where you go and what works for you. I'm always interested in learning all about new groups as well. Don't overdo it. Just make sure that you are out there and you are seen. Yeah. There'll be a few people on here that will be part of BX, I can imagine. Local BNI, WordPress meetup. Yeah. It's the important part is to get out there. There's lots of benefits and mistakes about networking. And the benefits are it's an opportunity for discovery, and you receive knowledge and insights. Walkie-talkie, walk on the beach business. I like that, Nicolette. Career advancement. And there can be increased visibility. That's what we're talking about here, about networking, increased visibility. And great, Michelle, you figured they weren't working for you. So it's excellent pulling back and then maybe finding ones that are. And again, thinking about networking, it's definitely something that don't go just to think I'm going to sell something here today. Or you really have to build that authority in the room, and you do that by turning up. And also personal growth. It's another reason that you might want to be networking. There's reasons that don't work, and people make these mistakes, that being too transactional. If I'm not getting anything out of it, then it hasn't worked. And not following up. Goodness me, how many people do you connect with, and how many business cards do you get? And then not following up. I make a point of every time I get business cards from people is I connect with them, or I do it at the event, connect with them on LinkedIn. But you've got that connection, then it becomes a business transaction, not a sales transaction, where you're building that connection, networking. So definitely making sure you follow up. And it gives another reason. And even, I will send a quick email. Hey, Nick, it was great seeing you at that event. especially when you're meeting someone for the first time, that you would go, oh, yeah, it was great to meet you at that event. Let me know if there's anything that I might be able to help you, people you might be able to help you connect with. Offer something, but definitely follow up. And people inauthentic, there's someone gave me a good terminology when they just throw business cards at you. We don't want to be that. We want to be real, because that's what we're building as a real brand. Not giving any value, always asking and not giving. And I know different networking groups. There's people that are very generous with their connections and other people that don't give those connections at all. Ignoring online networking, and there's lots and lots of opportunities for online networking as well. And I know I network with a couple of different groups online, and you can network with people from internationally when you do that also. You just got to be prepared for early morning starts. But who's that? Paul. Gee, you enrolled in lots of groups. Well, good on you, Paul. But it does make a difference to your business. I can guarantee that, Paul.
It's sort of looking a bit like semi-retirement.
I'm hearing you. I enjoyed my game of golf today, hence why my face is a bit sunburnt.
Oh, and I left off the Australian Plant Society in there too. I'm the official photographer and video producer.
Well done. Well done. There's a few. Yeah, yours on the board looks a bit like mine. And yeah, it was a gorgeous day for golf. Not following up networking etiquette, it just behave yourself really and do the right thing. It's about building connections, being seen, and that you are authentic to your brand. And how can you give value? You can offer advice. You can provide educational content everywhere. We multi-purpose everything, so it's not just having to create one thing, multiple things. We create one thing and we break it up and we put it in a whole lot of different places. That's an important factor. To do that, don't overdo it. And it's so important. I working with a lawyer in Sydney, and she was a dust lawyer, which is silicosis, asbestosis, and it's really hard for her to get to her audience because they're respiratory specialists and oncologists, and that was her target market and the people she wanted to connect with. But it was really hard for her to connect with them because you just can't walk in the door and we'll make a phone call. And so what we got her doing on LinkedIn was lots and lots of blogs. And within a couple of months, the inquiries, she works for a very large firm, inquiries into the business increased by 30%. So the phone calls coming in increased by 30%, and they did no marketing. The only thing that was doing different was Anna was doing writing the blogs. So it gave a lot of value. She made the right connections, and it's really helped with her business. She actually won an award that they only usually give to partners, but because of the success that she'd had, she won this award. Like really giving value, but making sure that it has more than one purpose to it. And improving your customer experience, how can you do that? What makes it different? And then whatever other benefits. I never discount. I always offer benefits or offer additional things. And that's what I was teaching my team when they were on commission, as we all are when we work for ourselves, we're all on commission. Don't discount. You're taking money out of your pocket, but give something away that you've already created. And just maintain your integrity and authenticity. This is one of my clients, and if you look at the number of subscribers that she's got on her YouTube, it's more than this now. I made this slides up a little while ago. But what Madonna has done, and I did not help her do this, but she did all this by herself. I helped her put a podcast together, and she's got thousands of followers on that. But what Madonna did really well with this, she didn't care what the videos looked like. It didn't matter. They weren't good, top quality videos to start with. And it just kept getting more and more and more subscribers and followers. That's part of what I make a point here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. And engage regularly. That's the main part of what she did. Okay, just give value. And when we're talking about how to have loyal supporters, again, go to your reviews and wherever they're from. There's a couple here from LinkedIn and the rest are from Google. But this is how you get the loyal supporters. You respond every time you get a review. You respond to them and you say thank you. You stay connected to your audience. You give them value. You keep them. You don't keep asking them for things. I have a weekly blog that if anyone wants to receive that, it's on my. You just go to my website and you can download a free ebook and you'll go onto the blog. But give value to and that's where people will find that you'll build those loyal supporters. I've found over the years that's my best way of doing anything is to get the connections I want, is to give value. Consistency. This is such an important factor. You really need to build a consistent brand. I think, who was it that said, Nicolette said that they're building a brand at the moment. The first thing people think about is your colors and what it's going to look like when they talk about the brand. But unless you know what message you want to get across, that even the colors, if you're working with a good graphic artist, they'll go through a whole lot of questions that'll figure out what connects with you. But it's not just colors. But for me, it was easy. Orange is my favorite color. But the importance of orange, it's effervescent, it's energy, it's fun, and the meaning of orange, and the blues, as we know from all our banks and blue ties from conservative speakers, it's meant to be, here I am, I'm solid, trust me. So they're my two colors. But it's this consistency. If you go to anything, you'll see the same photo on all of my social media. You'll see a similar look, the same colors, the same stories on it. So they all vary slightly, but they're really telling you the same thing. And that's what you need to have is right across your brands, is that consistency. Putting systems in place. And for the people that don't have a lot of time, this is where I was challenged. I went to a training one day and I took away two things. There was about 100 things on the list and they took away two things. And one of them was to put some systems in place. And the other one was to get a VA. This is a few years ago. So I needed to put the systems in place before I got the VA so that I could handle the system. So every day everything that I did more than once, I would either video it or I'd write the steps of what I'd just done. So anything you're doing more than once, you need to have a system for. When I put the VA on, I just was able to hand everything to her. And there was very little training involved because it was step by step it was done. So that time spent creating that system and the video and writing it out was so worthwhile. And so if you haven't got time, you need to create systems. Put the time into create systems. I guarantee it will give you more time. So anything that you do more than once, you need to have a system for it. That's a whole new discussion. We're looking at now what will give you that competitive edge. So partaking in continued education. We are never too mature, too old to continue to learn things. And I congratulate you all for not sitting in front of the TV tonight and being here instead. And hopefully you've got a whole lot of points that you can take away. Investing in excellent mentors and coaches is such an important asset. I know there's quite a few coaches on here and mentors, and then becoming an authority. So for me, there's a couple of things when I am talking about education. I'm talking about my education, but also, when I'm working with clients as to what they want to achieve out of the education. So how can you, and we talked about this before, when you're writing blogs, when you're giving out information, how can you educate your audience, but also be very open to education yourself? We want to be open-minded when it comes to learning anything new. This is one thing that I do at the beginning of the year. I write down my goals. Now, I did mention golf. And so my goal for the year, one of the goals, my personal goal, was reduce my golf handicap to 18. Now, today was my first game back for 3 months because I've been traveling and it's been raining. I don't play in the rain. But so it hasn't quite got down to 18. But this was my personal goal. So when you're looking at getting continued education, what do I need to do? So where am I missing my shots? Hitting on the woods on the fairway. That's where I need to, although I must admit, I did hit my 5-iron on the fairway very well today. So looking at this, so I need to engage somebody to help me with that. If you're looking at your business, what might be your business goal for the year? And I always write goals down differently than this, but this is a very quick, there's a specific way to write it that actually makes it a bit more achievable, but this is a quicker version. So think out, what is my business goal for the year, or for the 6 months, or for the 3 months? What is it that I need to learn to make my life easier and improve my brand, or improve my business, improve my sales? Mine has improved my website SEO to drive more traffic. That's one of the things that I decided that I needed to learn this year. And what do I need to learn to achieve this? And engage a SEO Google expert and participate in that training so I can actually understand it as well and do it. I want you to encourage you to do this with all different components of your life. What's the goal? What do you want to achieve? What's the problem that you have with it? And then what education or mentoring or training, coaching do you need then to achieve that goal? It's a really simple way. And it's one of the ways when I start working with people who are starting out or taking a business to the next level, so they don't waste money. They figure out, okay, this is the steps we need to do. We're going to invest in the right people to do it. And that's such an important factor, is how to find the best mentors or coaches or trainers. This is what you need to do, is set clear objectives and then do your research. Because if you want to step out as a better brand, or you want to get whatever it is you want to get better at, you need to be able to do this. I had someone the other day that interviewed me she actually interviewed me to see whether I would be the best coach for it, which was really interesting. So it was not, here, I can do this. She was asking all the right questions. Utilize networking and referrals. They're often the best people that can recommend people. Evaluate compatibility and fit. That's another important factor. Is this person going to work with me? And I have said no to different people over the years because I just know that it's not going to work. I really like working with people who actually want to achieve the results, and I don't have to keep shoving them all the time. I keep them accountable, but you want people who are prepared to do the work. Interview and ask questions, as I said that person did for me. Check references and testimonials. We've been talking about testimonials, reviews all the time. If you're traveling, I guarantee if you're traveling and you're looking for somewhere to go or eat or stay, you'll check reviews. Do the same thing when you're going to invest money, and trust your instincts. It's such an important aspect as well. Just reading your thing, Karen, looking for coaches in Sydney. I'm based up in further north than you. And important is what is your reputation? How are you seen by other people? So putting all of those things in place that we've talked about, that clarity, again, the important factor there was how you define your goals, how you build connections, and do that through stories, getting good at telling stories and building stories into everything that you do. That will be, if you can build a story into a 60-second pitch that actually says how you help people, then you're going to have people listening, rather than I do this and this is what I am. How you build that community, and then making sure you're consistent with what you're doing. Get your message out there. Be seen as the expert by giving the advice, getting on webinars, setting up videos, writing blogs, whatever it takes, whatever you do, and be seen as that expert. And then to get that competitive edge. I know I have invested, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on here that have done the same. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in education over the last 30 years. And what it's done is set me up for where I am now, and the life that I've created for myself. It makes a difference. And if you finding the right people, it really does make a big difference. So, Nick, that's it. I've got a couple of sorry, again, just a reminder of what happens when you are front and center. So all of those things that you said at the beginning, when you said that you different fears why you don't do it, remembering that you get to be seen as an expert when you're out in front of your brand. So this is very much about how you get in front of your brand. And I've always loved this photo. There's a lot of people swimming around the same pool as you that are doing the same thing. And there's a few people that might be prepared to stand out a little bit and just go that extra mile and really be the face of the brand. But then to be the I don't want to say the lone shark as a goldfish, to be that, the one that really does stand out a lot, you need to take the steps. You absolutely need to be the one out in front and be seen. So, and yeah, I think that's it. I'm looking at the next slide, but we're all good there. Any questions, Nick? Nick, I'm back. Any questions for anyone?
Fabulous, fabulous. Yes, any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away, or feel free to drop it into chat. There's one there. Nicolette, were you waving your hand around to ask something, or were you just waving? Okay. Anyone got a question at all?
What was everyone's main takeaway? If you haven't got a question, I'd love to know what you are going to apply. I think that's probably even more important than questions. What are you going to apply out of what we've taken on there that you're not doing now? Thanks, Deborah. There's always a delay on the chat, Nick, isn't it?
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, were you asking me, sir?
Yeah, either write in or answer it. Be consistent, Nick. Deborah, what were you going to say?
Yeah, the consistency thing, but also systems and work towards getting the VA, but also the Google reviews, set up Google review systems and use the language of what the reviews are using. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually writing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was heaps. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. And Jeff, more consistent with videos and blogs. Be the expert, Hannah. Cool. Narelle, clarity and consistency. Without a doubt, the consistency is the main aspect, whatever works for you. I'm going to sit and get clear on my brand as I've started something new and it's fresh. And actually, I'll put my email in here. For anyone on here, if you want to, I'm really happy, and I've got a gift in the giveaway too. I'm really happy to give everyone a soft copy of my book, Good Girls Do Sell. And even though it says Good Girls, nearly every time I've ever given away at a draw, it's been a bloke that's won it. And you go read the reviews, the blokes like the book as well. So if you'd like a copy of my book, then send me an email and I will return it with a soft copy. Paul, be me up front with families going through loss and loved ones. I've actually got a funeral stream tomorrow, Paul. I think it's such an important aspect. Give value and educate, Deborah. Yeah.
It makes such a difference when I represent myself, because it's what you were saying very early on the piece. It's about people buying from people, not from an ad on TV or from a business.
Very, very much so. And I think what I've noticed is people now shop local as well. They want to, because they know the butcher or the fruit shop.
Yeah.
It's building relationships with people. It's such an important aspect, and that's why with networking, you know, the hit and run doesn't work. You've got to build those relationships.
Yeah. And fortunately, I've developed good relationships with funeral directors, undertakers, and several churches. So
yeah,
referrals from there are gold. And a couple of times I've had to deal with not the family directly, but through the funeral director, for example, because they wanted to sort of keep it all bundled. And I haven't developed that same relationship, and things haven't gone as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What you want is when someone says, "Oh, we want to do this," we say, "Oh, we've got to get Paul Sheep." That's what you want. Oh,
it's exactly
we're going
right.
to do this. We've got to get.
He's the guy.
We've got to get Michelle Fellows. We've got to get Deborah Williamson. And that's what you want. People walking into a room and someone else going, "You need this person." That's what branding is about. Someone else is selling your story. Values, 3Fs: family, friends, and freedom. I like that, Jeff. That certainly fits with me, particularly the freedom one. I know, I'm just looking here. I am all a little bit red from it was such a gorgeous day on the golf course today. Everything in life is about.
The red down here isn't sunstroke, it's more like chilblains.
Oh, it's cold here now. Yeah, everything in life is about building relationships. Absolutely. So, and the other thing is also and I do free strategy calls for 15 minutes. So if anyone wants that, just it's on the website.
The website address, speechperfect.com.au. She's just gone and frozen.
And so
oh, I think that's Janeen. It's not me, is it? She's frozen. Good as gold. All right. Well, while she's frozen,
temperature drop up there.
You've got lots of value out of that tonight. Certainly, the consistency is the big thing in your branding and marketing. It's better to do something not quite as well as someone who does it perfectly, but it's better to do it consistently every day than it is to not do it at all. So we do have a door prize, actually, which Janeen is giving away. So Janeen's obviously had some problems with her connection, so hopefully she'll be back in. But while she does find her way back in, let's bring up the wheel. What Janeen is happy to offer is, from tonight, she has got will spend, I think it's 3/4 of an hour to run through your branding and what you're doing for your branding. So this is a consult she normally charges out at around $350. And so she's happy to give it away to someone here tonight, lucky winner tonight. So we do have our wheel of names up. So everybody's name is in this wheel of names. So don't disappear just yet, because if you disappear and you win, then we just go and redraw it again. So we're going to spin the wheel, and we'll have one lucky winner for that session with.
Yeah, we can do it.
So let's spin the wheel
to keep the cold draft out.
Indeed. And our lucky winner is Jeff Veal. There you go, Jeff. Are you still on the call? I think you are, aren't you? Fabulous, fabulous, excellent. Well, Jeff, you're the lucky winner of that night.
Awesome.
So what we'll do is we will connect you up with Janeen by email tomorrow. Then you can organise the time to work that through with her.
Sounds fantastic. Look forward to it.
Fabulous, fabulous. All right, well, look, if you enjoyed the session tonight, it will be up on the YouTube channel, the Smash Go YouTube channel tomorrow. And we'll drop the link for that into as well. Sorry, Paul, it's we're keeping you up there. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it'll be up on the Smash Go YouTube channel tomorrow. We'll drop the link into chat now. Once we've done that, you probably will want to go and save the chat, because all of the links are in chat. So everything from the cool online tools is in the chat there. Not quite sure where to save the chat. There are 3 little dots up on the top right-hand side. If you click that, that'll save it to your computer. There'll be a link there for you to click on as well, so you know exactly where it is in your computer. All right, all the links are up there in the chat now, so if you save that now, then you've got all those links. Now, this session was recorded on Facebook, so feel free to see it there. If you know someone else that will be interested in it, either point them to the Facebook page or to the YouTube channel, and they can watch it there. Now, Janeen has just popped back in the room again. I think she's found her way back in.
It was very, very good timing considering that the internet's going to drop out.
There you go. Well, it did drop out, and we carried on while you're there, and we've got a lucky winner of your door prize tonight. So Jeff Fields will connect you with Jeff tomorrow. Just remember the book that Janeen's got. If you do want a soft copy of the book, Janeen's email address is in chat. So make sure you email out to get that book. And if you do want to contact Janeen and have a chat through your branding, again, her email is in chat, or you can pop along to her website, which is, I think, speechperfect.com.au.
No, janeenvosper.com.
Sorry, janeenvosper.com. So if you go to janeenvosper.com, you can find out all about what she does there.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Well, thanks, Janeen, for your session tonight.
Welcome. Sorry about the internet just dying.
Well, that's the vagaries of where we are online. All right, well, that's our session tonight. Thanks, everyone, for coming along, and look forward to catching up with you all again next week. Have a good night.